Greetings, Frederick Riddle here with another episode of Christian News and Views. This is episode 2686. And this is Monday, and our topic today is Ukraine war almost over? And here's an article coming out of Moscow itself. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on May 9th that he thought the Ukraine war was coming to an end. Remarks that came just hours after he had vowed victory in Ukraine at Moscow's most scaled-back Victory Day parade in years. I think that the matter is coming to an end, Putin told reporters of the Russia-Ukraine war, Europe's deadliest conflict since World War II. Putin also said he would be willing to negotiate new security arrangements for Europe, and that his preferred negotiating partner would be former German Chancellor Gerhard Schröder. Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine triggered the most serious crisis in relations between Russia and the West since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, when many people feared the world was on the brink of nuclear war. The Kremlin has said peace talks brokered by President Donald Trump's administration were on pause. Putin has repeatedly vowed to fight on until all of Russia's various war aims are achieved in what Moscow calls the special military operation. Putin was speaking in the Kremlin after setting out his view of the causes of the war. He blamed globalist Western leaders, saying they promised NATO would not expand eastward after the 1989 fall of the Berlin Wall, but then tried to draw Ukraine into the European Union's orbit. His statement came hours after the parade on the May 9th national holiday celebrating the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany in World War II. The annual event pays homage to the 27 million Soviet citizens who died in that war. Instead of the usual intercontinental ballistic missiles, tanks, and missile systems rolling across the cobbles of Red Square, Russia played a video of its military hardware in action on giant screens opposite the Kremlin walls. Russian troops have been fighting in Ukraine for well over 4 years. That is longer than Soviet forces fought in World War II, known in Russia as the Great Patriotic War of 1941-45. Putin has ruled Russia as president or prime minister since the last day of 1999. Faces a wave of anxiety in Moscow about the war in Ukraine, which has killed hundreds of thousands of people, left swaths of Ukraine in ruins, and drained Russia's $3 trillion economy. Russia's relations with Europe are worse than at any time since the depths of the Cold War. Russian forces have so far been unable to take the whole of the Donbas region of eastern Ukraine, where Kiev's forces have been pushed back to a line of fortress cities. Russian advances have slowed this year, though Moscow controls just under 1/5 of Ukrainian territory. After Russia and Ukraine accused each other of violating unilateral ceasefires they had each declared over recent days, U.S. President Donald Trump announced a 3-day ceasefire from May 9th to May 11th that was supported by the Kremlin and Kiev. The two sides also agreed to exchange 1,000 prisoners. I'd like to see it stop, Russia-Ukraine. It's the worst thing since World War II in terms of life. 25,000 young soldiers every month. It's crazy, Trump told reporters in Washington. He added that he would like to see a big extension of the ceasefire. There were no reports of violations of the ceasefire from either Moscow or Kiev. European Council President Antonio Costa said last week he believed there was potential for the EU to negotiate with Russia and discuss the future of the security architecture of Europe. Asked if he was willing to engage in talks with the Europeans, Putin said the preferable figure for him was Schröder. For me personally, the former Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, Mr. Schröder, is preferable, Putin said. European leaders have said Russia must be defeated in Ukraine and cast Putin as a war criminal and autocrat who they say could one day attack a NATO member if he is allowed to win the war. Russia dismisses such claims as nonsense. Putin, who ordered troops into Ukraine in February 2022, cast European powers as warmongers for supporting Ukraine with tens of billions of dollars in war support, weapons, and intelligence. Asked about Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, Putin said a meeting was possible only once a lasting peace deal was agreed. This thing is, his whole argument there is rather weak. And I'm going to get into it a little bit here. Now, there's a telling clue within all the things he said here, namely that Mr. Putin still won't accept responsibility for the unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. He blames the West. Well, history doesn't support him. He, as head of the government, signed an agreement. Well, that was way back. I don't remember the year now, but it was some time ago. And before Trump ever took office, before a lot of what's happened, I believe it was in around 2014. But he signed an agreement guaranteeing Ukraine's security, recognizing them as an independent country. Now, all of a sudden, he's at war with them, trying to take the land. In fact, he tried to sneak attack. It was supposed to take place and take over Ukraine within about 3 days. It's 4 years later now, folks. He has lied to his own people, to the world, and apparently to himself, so much that he's out of touch with reality. Now, that is one view. But here, there is another view. Namely, that Putin has painted himself into a corner. On the one side are the oligarchs that support the war. These are the people of power that support him. And they want him to do more. On the other side is the population itself, as an increasingly restive public that once supported the special operations but are now showing signs of withdrawing that support and turning against Putin. His position seems to be getting a little bit more precarious with each passing day. In fact, sometimes in some ways, it's surprising he's still in power. Usually, the Russian government isn't that patient, but in this scenario, Putin is trying to save face, and he's trying to paint the picture of the West being the culprit rather than themselves, and he's hoping that they will just look past that. Well, and then they also dismiss the actual real threats that the West have talked about. He dismisses them. Well, history again does not support him, it supports them. If you can't trust him, then how can you negotiate with him? He could agree to something today and decide tomorrow, well, I know I signed that, but no, that's gone. In my opinion, they should make only tentative steps forward to a negotiation and make them conditional on actions that they see he makes. They must see steps on Putin's part to verify his intentions. Most of the land in Ukraine, currently controlled by Russia, was gained in the early days of the war. The Russian armed forces have had a dismal record since then, which means that they ace up the sleeve that Putin may think he has. Well, that seems to be non-existent. Caution is my word of advice. Don't be in a hurry to negotiate just to gain peace. This is a cornered snake that still has some venom. And so I'm going to leave it at that point because there's so many variables involved in here that they have to consider. But I think caution is the word. Be very, very cautious about agreeing with him on anything. And there has to be some kind of reciprocal moves on his part. Moves that he can't just say, oh, I'm going to do this. I promise to do this. Well, someday I'm going to do that. No, it has to be more firmer than that, visible action maybe the pulling back of forces, or something of a significant nature. He claims he's winning the war. There's no sign of that. Gaining ground in inches is not the same thing as defeating your enemy. He's draining the enemy, but they have new weapons on the way. They may have already gotten some of them. They have the not only from European but from the American sources. And he's trying Trump's patience. Trump's been very patient with him. But at the same time, Trump has his own agenda, and it does not mean that Putin gets a victory. That he gets to make a victory lap, if you will. So there's so many variables going on here. We just have to sit back and watch and hope. And I would definitely advise you pray. Pray for peace, but pray for an honorable peace. Is this the war that's going to come down to Israel? I doubt that. But it is a war that is showing that once it's done, Russia is going to have to rearm, and they will. I'm confident they will. Iran will someday rearm, but not now, not right now. It's going to take some time, a few years anyhow, but it could happen still in my lifetime. Well, I hope I've given you something to chew on today. I've tried to try to inform you, encourage you, inspire you. I try also to let you know about our sponsor. It's TNR Independent Books, a Christian indie publisher. If you are a Christian and you want to learn how to write and get published, then we have a course for you. It's called Basic Authors Training. Go to trbookservices.com, go to our bookstore and the writing department, click on that writing department there, and you will see our different services we have available for you. We have another service we have, it's called Ministry Publishing, and that's for you if you already know how to write and you're just looking for a publisher. Either case, check us out. And if you like it, apply for to be registered to have that opportunity to make use of that service, whichever one you choose. Well, you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode.